Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I'm Gunnar Eos, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm here with the small but mighty group today. We've got Mr. Esoteric, Mr. Blankakong, and of course myself. So, today's topic, we are going to do one that spans the ages of video games. Video game covers. Some are gorgeous covers that are pieces of artwork in and of themselves. Some are merely just advertisements for the cartridge or disc that you're going to get, and some have been known over the years to be flat out lies. Like what's on the cover is not indicative of what you're playing. So we have a selection of games from different genres, and we're gonna talk about why we like these particular games and their cover art, not the games, but the cover arts of the games, why we like them, you know, like is like how did we feel about it when we first saw it? Was this the cover art that convinced us to buy the game? Because fun fact for some of the younger listeners and viewers in our watching our podcast today, back then there wasn't really such a thing as Googling it. There wasn't such a thing as the internet. So we really only had video game magazines, commercials on television, and sometimes literally just looking at the cover art at the store and going, "That's cool. I want that." And you just hope to God that the game it looked played as cool as the cover art. So now that the intro's out the way, I will start us off with the first cover art of the evening. And for my first selection, one of my all-time favorite games, probably in the top 10 for me personally, if I had to pick one. My first entry is going to be the cover art for Zone of the Enders 2, second runner on the PlayStation 2. Now, I'm a big fan of Zone of the Enders. You can fight me in the comments, but I like Zone of the Enders more than I like Metal Gear. Both games done by Kojima. I know that's like a controversial statement. Obviously, there's more Metal Gears than Zone of the Enders, so who won in the end? I get it. But I like Zone of the Enders because I'm a big fan of mecha, and Zone of the Enders and Kojima's a big fan of mecha. So it was a guy who loves mecha, anime, Gundam, and things of that nature, creating a game for people who loved it. Now, specifically for the Zone of the Enders 2 cover art, to me, I'm a kind of a simple guy. If there's like a lot going on, it kind of distracts me. So what I like about the Zone of the Enders 2 cover is it's simple and to the point. Because this is a sequel, you kind of know the gist of it. So on the front of the cover it has the main character Dio, and to the left of Dio, in the upper left, is Anubis, the main bad guy for the Zone of the Ender series. Then on the upper right, it's got Jehuti, the main mobile suit that you pilot in the Zone of the Ender series, and some of the other characters and bosses like Viola that you meet across the way. But it's just that. It's a simple cover, and it's all drawn in like a very anime art style, as opposed to Zone of the Enders, which is very 3D. So again, I love anime, I love mecha, and I love simple cover arts. So this one with its like shades of orange and black, just showing the character, the main antagonist, the main protagonist, mobile suits, pretty much is just like simple to the point, looks great, and I'm a fucking weeb, so it definitely helps. So that's my first entry, Zone of the Enders 2, the second runner, sequel to Zone of the Enders. Now, Mr. Esoteric, hit me with cover art that you picked for us this evening.
Okay, be more than happy to do that. Before I get started, though, I would like to state that my entries are predicated based upon what Gunnar mentioned earlier in regards to not knowing about games prior to the internet era. So I picked a lot of games that were uh, like at the dawn of like when internet was just starting and before. Um, Due to the fact that the cover art for me, especially the ones I picked, told a story. It was thought provoking. It had a lot of like themes within it that uh, they kind of touched based on in the game, and it allowed me to have my imagination to kind of wander. Um, so the first entry, with that being said, the first entry I chose, which I feel, arguably speaking, is the best cover art I've seen within the series. And I would have to say it's the Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Okay. So one of the things I really appreciated about the cover itself was that it was holographic. Um, it was like for ages, it was like a kind of like a marine blue, I would say like a deep sea blue, and with seasons, it was like a fiery red. And it really shined. It had like a insane luster to it, which really gravitated me to the game itself. Not only because I played Zelda games, but also because the cover was so like fascinating. And I'm pretty sure there were other games that I wanted to play during that time that were on the Game Boy Color. Um, but aside from just that, you see Link on both covers, and what you also see that you wouldn't know unless you played the game were the tools that he utilized to go back in time for ages and also control the weather for seasons. Um, Another thing that I also enjoyed about the cover art was that it showed two of the goddesses in the background.
Yeah.
It had Nehru, which I believe is the goddess of wisdom, and it had Feyor, which was the goddess of courage. Gonna correct me if I'm wrong. Feyor was the red one, right? Or was that the green?
Um, it was Din. Din was the red
Yes.
one, and
I'm
Naru
sorry.
was the blue one.
Excuse me. So yeah, he's the Zelda buff here.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's Din who is fire, Nehru who is pretty much water, courage and wisdom, if I'm not mistaken. And also adjacent to them in the back were the villains. Um, I don't remember one of their names. I think the one for Aegis name was Veril, if I'm not mistaken. It was
oh
like
man, that one I'm because I knew they were just like there until you did the special stuff to get Ganon,
yes,
the long time villain.
yes. So they were the antagonists of each game, and the games kind of like intertwine in the sense of once you beat one, you play the next one, and vice versa. So you could play it in whichever sequence you wish to play it, which was amazing. Um, and I love that compilation of the cover art because it showed you your key item, your key NPC who you'll be speaking to throughout the game for assistance and guidance and whatnot, or to like rescue. And it also showed you your antagonist all displayed into one cover. Um, Also, and that's not it. Also within the back, um, it was like a small emblem like collage of pretty much most of the important characters that were available to you on your journey. So you had like Link in the front with whatever pose relative to the game. You had the villain, you had the goddess, and you had a couple of NPCs that you encountered during the game. The one in particular that kind of like draws my attention and that I remember was don't remember his name, but he was kind of like a wizard looking character. He had like red hair, he had like a blue magician hat. Um and you would encounter him throughout your journey. Like you'll just bump into him and whatever. And then there was a similar character on the other side of the game as well. Like it's well uniformed. It looked beautiful. The drawing was well done. Um, I think this was done during the rise of Photoshop or the rise of those type of digital art software. So the person
Ah,
who
okay.
created this, yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, Oracle of Ages was probably like maybe 2001, 2002, and I think that's around the time where like Photoshop started popping up or really becoming prominent within the world of like digital painting and stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
so I, I
Interesting. Okay.
I thought it was a well like a well created piece. Definitely my top when it comes to uh cover art within the Legend of Zelda's realm. And yeah, that is my first entry. Like it's
Strong first pick.
yeah, for the for those of you guys who are viewing this and haven't seen it, definitely take a look at it. The pictures online doesn't do it justice. Like if you had a physical copy of the box itself, you would
Yeah,
definitely see.
that's something to point out too, especially for those games. It wasn't. It was a box. The whole thing was a cardboard box. So you know, those things are really hard to come by because most people, Game Boy games and Super Nintendo games, just kind of chuck the box. So
Yeah, exactly. In addition to that point, Gunner, what I wanted to add as well was that the Game Boy cartridges were amazing to look at as well. Like like I with Oracle of Ages, it was like a nice compliment to the cartridge because I'm sure you guys remember, but for those of you who are watching who don't know or don't even know what a Game Boy Color is, it's a long time ago.
yeah,
The cartridges were clear and they were like a see-through type. I would say kind of like a bluish color. Um, it kind like to explain the color, it kind of escapes me, but I'm saying that to say that the cartridge definitely complemented the box art for ages. Yeah, there's that.
That was definitely a '90s thing, right? Was the see-through aesthetic, the Game Boy
oh
Color,
god,
the
yeah,
PS2 controller, certain
N64,
cartridges,
Oh yeah,
N64, the see-through stuff. Like I
fucking
love
Mac
that.
PCs.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I forgot about those things. Yeah,
yeah,
so
those
yeah.
such a
big
'90s
ass
aesthetic.
tubes. Yeah.
I love it though. So I mean, I don't know. I'm a sucker
It
for
was
that
amazing
shit.
to look at. I mean, during the time, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but during that time, I was fascinated with like the components that went into certain things. So you were able to see like the motherboard of the cartridge. If you had like let's say maybe like a watch that showed like the gears, and as you're looking at it, it's turning. That
Hmm.
was kind of like my fascination with that. So
I still have a fascination for that stuff. Like I have a
oh, me
watch
too.
where I
Yeah.
have the gears. My main PS4 controller is the Death Stranding one, which is like a
Ooh, nice.
yellow clear, like it's a clear yellow. I love that controller, so I get it. Like, I'm still living in the '90s, but anyway.
Same.
So my entry is gonna be one that no, if you've heard any of our past episodes, you already know Monster Hunter was gonna be a part of it. But it's a 2-in-1, so it's 2-in-1. Because I looked at all the Monster Hunter cover, I'm like, damn, which one's the best? And I was like, yeah, it's got to be these two. Even though the others are like really fucking good, but these two, I don't know, speak to me on a different level.
I think it's
And that
Freedom Unite, man. I think it's Freedom Unite.
so Monster Hunter World, the first one, the initial North American launch, and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. So what I love about these two cover arts, and so I'll describe it, and I'll also have it like as we're talking about the cover arts, I'll have them on screen. Um, so with Monster Hunter World, it's three hunters. We got a great sword user, a bow user in the back, and a hammer user in the very front. And then you got a Raphalos kind of flying above, and they're like on a cliffside. And then in the background, you see like the ocean, and like you see the great tree and the great forest. I love this cover, and a lot of people argue that the Japanese cover is better because it has Nergigante on the front, and Nergigante is like the big bad, Elder Dragon for that game. But the fact that they chose Raphalos
The OG.
for the North American release, I think makes more sense because this was like in a lot of ways a reboot to the series, and having the OG, as you say, Raphalos as the forefront monster just makes a ton of sense to me. And he's such a cool monster too, and like the composition of everything, I love it. Right, it's like the bow users in the far back, the greatsword user is in the center, and the hammer user is in the front. So like it already tells you without blatantly telling you, like if you know, it tells you
Yeah.
where your position should be in the hunt, and I love that. And just the different levels, like the layers that's in the background. Like you got the tree, the ocean, the monster, the hunters, and then the ground on the very foreground. Like it's just levels, and I think it's such a well thought out and well constructed cover art, and it really encapsulates like the idea of hunting with friends, which is one of the things I love most about Monster Hunter. And with Freedom Unite, well, this was my first like major Monster Hunter game, so this one has like a special place in my heart. But it also has a similar thought process. It's not captured the same, at least not exactly the same, but yeah, at the bottom you got your 4 hunters, you got Nargacuga breaking down the damn trees, and it's really dynamic, and it's really like it tells a story, like it shows you conflict, and that's gonna be an ongoing theme with all of my entries. Is there's a lot of story, and then there's a lot of conflict shown in the art, and it shows like a clear distinction between the good guys and the bad guys, and I love that. I think that's, for me, that's a big seller for any game. Whenever I see that, I see a dynamic cover like this, it instantly makes me interested to understand, like, oh man, like who's this bad guy, and who am I playing as, and what's the situation? Like it just intrigues me. And there's a way to get it wrong, right? There's a way to do too much to where the cover art is like, okay, there's too much going on here, and it doesn't make sense. But I think with the way Capcom designs their cover arts, it's usually a great sword hunter, facing off against the monster, looking up at the monster. It's usually always that's like the composition. There's only a few times where they strayed away from that. But that's typically what they do. They usually have a great sword hunter and then the main flagship monster right in front of them. And I love that look, like just that, because it's that's what the game is, man. It's just you're hunting these giant creatures, and it's an uphill battle, and that's the game, and that's what the cover art is showing you, and that's it. Like there's no bullshit, there's no gimmicks, there's no false advertise. This is it, man. This is Monster Hunter. That's the game.
Man versus beast.
That's it, and I love that. So specifically Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite are my favorite cover arts, even though I love them all. But if I had to just pick 2, I'm gonna pick those 2.
Yeah, I would say like all the Monster Hunter, cover art are amazing. I guess the Monster Hunter World one kind of escaped me a bit because of the fact that, again, with this current climate where you're able to see things before the art, I'm so accustomed to back in the days, the art telling a story before I actually play the game. Which, if anyone who were not online, which is very, very few throughout the world, if they were to encounter the cover art for Monster Hunter, I'm pretty sure they'll probably get the same story that you have collected just from looking at the picture alone. So it's definitely well executed, and it's very well detailed. Damn, I wish I would have like researched the artists for the ones I came across too that I selected. But shout outs to the artists is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
Oh, 100%. Shout out to the it's probably a team of artists who worked on that. And just to wrap up my point, or my entry, working at GameStop when the Monster Hunter game came out, and even to this day, like I still get it from time to time. Like people would see the game on the shelf, faced out, and I don't know why it brings a smile to my face whenever they pick up and go, "Oh, what's this?" Like it's an immediate fish hook, man. I'm like, so
another one,
so good. Like that's how good that composition is, and it just works, man. It just works. To quote Todd.
Oh boy, Todd.
It just works. So anyway, that's my entry number 1. Take it away, Gunner. Entry 2.
Alrighty, so for my entry 2, I tried to keep it towards I didn't want to cheat because I know reversible cover art is a thing, and those always tend to be really well done. I tried to keep it to just the original cover art, like this is what you get before you even know there's a reversible image. So this one's original. If I had to specifically date it, okay, so I'm just gonna say it. I don't know why I'm doing this. My next entry is Dragon's Crown.
Oh,
The one I'm showing is specifically the Pro, Dragon's Crown Pro, which was on the PlayStation 4. The game was originally out for the PlayStation Vita and then got ported to the Pro. So just for discrepancy's sake, it's still the same cover. It's just the cover in my hand is a steelbook, but the cover art is the same whether it's the original or the Pro version. So Dragon's Crown, why did I pick it? Again, Dragon's Crown, I can't tell you the amount of hours I sunk into Dragon's Crown. I'm not going to get into the game too much because that's not the point of the topic. But when you look at this cover art, Dragon's Crown was done by Vanillaware. And Vanillaware has a very distinctive art style. It's very,
yeah.
I guess if you want to call it, at least I describe it as Japanese Disney. It's very like fantasy, high fantasy. This one, Dragon's Crown, is based off of D&D. It's Vanillaware, a Japanese company's take on the Western Dungeons and Dragons game. Literally, the whole game is you pick your archetype character, your knight, your elven archer, your Amazonian warrior, your witch, your wizard, and it even has a dwarf. Like this is literally like high fantasy D&D's type art. And the way they have it, the art cover is like it's like if you cracked open and looked at a cover of a D&D rule book where it has like the big muscly knight and the sultry sexy mage and the small lithe elf and the big but stout dwarf. Like it's literally just a D&D cover. And I'm not the biggest fan of D&D, but I like the aesthetics of old school. Let me be very specific. Old school Dungeons and Dragons. Modern Dungeons and Dragons, that's a whole other conversation. But old school D&D, I'm a big fan of just the aesthetics without ever having done a D&D campaign. And the fact that Dragon's Crown is just a Japanese take on it and putting in Vanillaware's distinctive art style was like like this cover art, again, it's a very simple cover art. It's literally the characters you can pick in the game, front and center. But simplicity always wins the day for me. And the fact that this is just like, hey, look, this is our take on D&D, but we're a Japanese company. I have to go with Dragon's Crown every time. So, second entry, Dragon's Crown. The one I'm holding is specifically for the PlayStation 4.
Wow, that's definitely a awesome entry. I have Dragon's Crown as well. I have the steel cover book or whatever. Never got to play it though, but I've heard phenomenal things about it. And honestly, what did draw me to the game itself was the artist, the art. I don't recall ever hearing much about it back then when it first was announced. So it's definitely a
Yeah, I
look.
mean it was on the PS Vita, and we all know how that turned out. For those who don't, it died. It died, and kind of left Nintendo as the only portable runner in the space until Steam Deck rolled around. But yeah, it was kind of a niche game. If you knew about Vanillaware games, this was already on your radar because of their distinctive art style. But it was on the PS Vita. That's why, I'm glad it eventually got ported to the PlayStation 4, a more widely accessible system, a not dead system. I mean, not yet anyway. But
Yeah, the art style definitely reminds me of another game that I played. Can't recall the name right now, but I believe it was from Atlas or Atlas published it. Um, I'll definitely think about it, hopefully, and later in the podcast and let you guys know. Um, but I'm gonna move forward with my second entry, and this this cover art is amazing. As for the panelists, my fellow friends, they know that I am heavily into like mythological creatures, Greek myth, things of that nature. And one of the things that really, really, really captivated me in terms of the art, and the game does it so much justice. I would have to say my second entry is Super Castlevania 4. Like, where do I begin with the art style? Now, the it's just okay. If you take the time, if for those of you who haven't seen the cover art, if you take the time to look at it, it looks like the cover art itself is actually it was actually drawn. It was like painted and just like placed on the box itself. Um, it looks like somebody just hand painted it. It doesn't look to me, it doesn't look much like any digital software was involved. Obviously, it was, but the way that it was drawn, it feels like those old school artists back in the day, like Michelangelo, worked on this piece, and it looks amazing. Um, what I also like about it is the font. The font gives me like a Roman theme type aesthetic. Um, and then you see it like the font is in red, but if you look closely with the yellow border around it between like the Roman numeral 4 and the C, it gives like an outline of a castle, which I that's like phenomenal graphic design. Um and then to in addition to that, you see a bunch of like mythical creatures. So you see like the Medusa head, you see the skeletons that are like walking around. One is holding like a spear. There's another that's like barehanded. You also see, I guess, Konami's representation of the Hydra. I wouldn't have thought of that being that due to the unless I played the game. So I know that it's in fact the Hydra, but it kind of has like a wolf like head to it. You see like a knight, you see like a vulture, um, and then you also see the antagonist in the far background, Dracula. For those of you who've played Castlevania, and then all the way in the foreground, you see Simon Belmont, who is like one of the Belmont clan's well-known protagonists. He's always vanquishing Dracula in some way, shape, or form, and it just brings like a well thought out composition overall. Like the colors are not vibrant; they're kind of like muddy to some extent, giving it like a darker feel. Um, I didn't even mention the environment. Like the environment that you're on, you see like a bit of the castle, which seems like it's kind of like destroyed to some degree, to kind of portray like that old aesthetic feel, like it's been there for centuries. Given, of course, Dracula's age, based upon the Castlevania lore. Um, and you also see the Morning Star, which is the weapon of choice that the Belmont use to pretty much subdue all their foes. So it's like it's amazing composition. I loved it. I remember seeing it as a kid and was like mesmerized. Um, it I don't know what else to say about it. Like it's you you just again you just have to look at the cover. It didn't have all the fancy things that my last entry had in terms of like the holographic um etching in it. It was just a plain cardboard. And I think it's just as well executed in my opinion. It was amazing. Um the back just had a bunch of like maybe about 3 snapshots of gameplay, which didn't really tell much about the game. And it also gave like a story synopsis of what's going on. So it amazing piece, Super Castlevania 4. I That was my second entry. Like there isn't much more I can say about it.
Yeah,
I think the best. I say this with caution, but I'm gonna say it. I think this is the best cover art on the Super Nintendo's entire library. Like I don't think there's a question about that. Because I
Absolutely.
thought about mentioning a Castlevania game. The one that I was gonna mention was Bloodlines on the Sega Genesis. And as I was researching it, apparently the same artist did both of those games. He did most of the Castlevania 90s era cover art. Tom Du Bois, I think his name is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, shout outs to Tom. He's a fucking master. Great cover art, great entry. I knew you were going to mention that one. So
It's funny you mentioned Bloodlines, because that was going to be the entry, but it was something about, I think, how can I explain this? The Genesis boxes did not do some of the cover art justice because they were working on a vertical scale as opposed to Super Nintendo, which worked on a horizontal scale.
Yeah.
So there was a lot more to fill in within that portion. So
Mhm.
I went with Castlevania 4 because of that.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Even though I think the Bloodline, they made it work because
Oh yeah,
in the
absolutely.
Bloodlines cover art, the main character, he's like looking up, and like
Mhm.
all the threat is like protruded upward, and it's like a looming threat. It still works, but I do agree
Mhm.
that Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4 is a better piece, and I think the landscape format definitely like helped. So
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. So anyway, on to my entry two. It's going to be a PS2 era game, Shadow of the Colossus,
Ah,
specifically the PS2 one. So in this cover art, for those who are familiar, you have the first of all, the font of the Shadow of the Colossus is great. Like, and the fact that Colossus is, the word Colossus is the biggest word on the cover art, and like the framing, and it's right in the center, and then directly behind the name of the game is the first Colossi that you fight, and he's of course taking up 95% of the cover art, as he should.
as he should. Yeah.
And then at the bottom left hand corner, right next to the ESRB, you have our hero on his horse, and he's taking up about the other 5% of the cover art, as he should. And in the background, you have like the castle structure. I'm not sure if that's the same castle you fought the lizard colossi in, or if that's supposed to be the shrine where your girlfriend is at or something.
I'd always
But
assumed it was the main shrine, but yeah.
I
Yeah.
assume so,
Same.
but it's hard to tell because I don't know if it was that high. I don't remember. But
I'm
whatever. It's
I'm
back there
gauging it. I think I'm gauging it based upon like how far you are, because if I'm not mistaken, because I played it relatively
recently.
soon, like recently, um this particular colossi, the first colossi, was not too far from the shrine. Like he was,
Yeah, he was pretty close. So yeah,
yes.
maybe that makes sense. Geographically speaking, I guess this would be the shrine, the main shrine. But yeah, that's there. And then like I do love the color brown personally. And so you don't see it too often as a primary color of choice
Mhm.
for like any art, really, especially any art in any media. So the fact that they use these browns and these cool, like these dull yellows, and it just makes it look ancient, and I love shit that looks ancient. I don't know why. Like, collection I plan to start soon is the Japanese Bandai Yu-Gi-Oh card collection, and those cards look super old, and I just love
Okay.
the way they look. And they have like a similar color palette with a lot of browns and like the same yellows, and so I remember seeing this cover and go, "What the? This game looks fucking sick! Like I want to fight that, right?" And so again, I mentioned it before. It's going to be an ongoing thing with me, where it's like I want to see a big threat, and I want to see my hero, and that's it. Like I just want that, that hero's journey kind of look and story behind the game, because that's why I play most video games, is to be, this hero of the story or whatever, and to fight the big bad dragon or whatever it may be. So Shadow Colossus on PS2, I love this cover art very, very much. It's one of my favorites, and it is my entry number 2.
Yeah, that's definitely a great entry. I'm sorry, Gunnar, to cut you
No,
off.
you're fine. No, yeah,
I was
keep
just
going.
going to say that I recently played the PS4 version, and I must say that that version doesn't do the cover art justice. Like, it's something about. So, let me just preface this. So, I recently saw like before playing PS4, I saw like a little bit of like, gameplay of the PS3 version, and I feel like the PS3 version is a better representation of the cover art in terms of like the graininess, the muddiness of the game itself, because I don't know. I believe I had this conversation with Kong, maybe quite a few months back or whatever, but it's something about the PS3 graphically that leaves more to the eye. You know, like the monsters, the things that you encounter, it looks a lot more intimidating. Like in the PS4 version, there's a lot more detail that you see, but with the PS3 version, it's like a lot left to be desired. Like you had to really, make up for it with your eyes in terms of like certain textures and whatnot. So I would say the PS3 version definitely does the cover art justice in terms of like the airiness and the muddiness of the game. So
Okay.
of the composition, excuse me. Yeah.
I don't think the PS3 entry was bad per se. Just the PS2 one, I think, is the most impactful for me. And if you look at the PS4 one too, the PS4 uses a different Colossi. The PS4 version of the game, they use the third Colossi, the Warrior one, the one that you have to fight on that platform, and he's like walking away from you, which was weird to me. Like it's fine, like it's a good looking cover art, but it's just like it doesn't have the same impact as the PS2 one, in my personal opinion. But anyway,
That makes sense.
Okay. All right. So my third entry. I'm gonna just call me a hypocrite. I'm gonna violate a rule that I just said in my second entry, where I try to keep to the original cover arts. When I looked at this cover art, I had to include it because it was just so stylized, and in my opinion, it fully encompasses the game. So sorry, but hey, whatever. Leave a dislike, I guess. I'm not your lawyer. But so my third entry is Valkyria Chronicles remastered on the PlayStation 4, specifically the steel case version. Now, I'm kind of a sucker for steel case versions. It's a very simple way for me to get to pay an extra $10 for your game. Sorry, I mean, I just find them cool. There's very few on the Switch. I only own one, but besides the point. The reason why I'm picking Valkyria Chronicles Remastered, the steel case version of the PlayStation 4, specifically is the way they designed the overall case. Not just the front cover, but the overall case. So what I'm getting at is, for this version, if you look at what would be at the front of the game, it shows the main tank of the game, which is the Edelweiss, and it shows some of the main cast of characters. Now, what they've done is, over the entire span of the cover, the game case itself, the front and the back, it shows the entire cast of characters. So, for just a little context, the Valkyria Chronicles takes place in like a mythical kind of fantasy version of what is World War II, and you play as the Alliance fighting against the evil Empire. Obviously, we're not name dropping real countries, but you kind of get the idea. So in the game, you have your main core cast, which can't be changed, but you recruit soldiers because you're in the military. And each soldier has a different personality, has a different specialty, has a different weapon that they use, different skills and whatnot. So what I liked about this cover is it showed literally everyone that can be in your squad throughout the whole game. And I found that so cool because it's really easy to forget that this game actually has a pretty big roster when the story focuses, rightfully so, on 4 or 5 core characters. Like, this is an army, you're a unit, like this is your platoon, and these are the people that join your party. So that's the reason why I like the cover, because it shows everybody, it shows the main battle tank, It shows even the support tank that you get later on in the game, and the entire character roster. And again, I'm a weeb, so the whole point of Valkyria Chronicles, the art style is it's anime. It's an anime art style, and the cover exemplifies that to a T. So sorry I broke my rule, but I just had to talk about this cover because it's just, to me, it's just so good. It's, again, a simple cover. That's going to be my personal theme for this. There's not a lot going on with my selections for cover arts, but that's just how I am. I like it simple, to the point, but you can still make it look appealing even though it's a simple cover art. So
I don't think you broke your rule. I mean, if you're comparing the Valkyria Chronicles case to like the Dragon's Crown case, like I see a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I just tried to, like, what would young me, when this game came out on the PlayStation 3, what would I see if I walked into a store? But I just, like, I had to mention the PlayStation 4 steel case version. Like, it's just a cool ass cover to me.
yeah, I like it a lot. I didn't even know this version existed. So
Me
Yeah.
neither. Me
So,
neither.
I mean, again, without getting into the game, it's a great game. Anybody listening, watching, you like strategy RPGs, this is your game. Check it out. There's 3 of them, so obviously we're doing something right. But yeah. So that's my third entry, and I will pass it off to Mr. Esoteric. You got another one for us?
Yes, I do. You did mention the word young, and this next entry, I was pretty young when I saw the cover art. It was appealing to me.
Pong?
No, I wasn't. I ain't that old, I'm before the rise of computers, but I definitely was born after the start of the first computer. But yeah, but it's relatively young in my gaming livelihood. Um, I picked it simply because it's not the strongest art piece by any means, but it definitely caught my eye, and definitely brings nostalgia because it was more like, what the fuck is going on? So my next entry was Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. And again, I must say, I must preface this, it's a beautiful art piece. I don't think it tops Super Castlevania. Of course, we did mention that earlier, as Super Castlevania being arguably the best cover art for the Super Nintendo. But I do think it is a strong piece in itself. And what I love about it is because it's a lot of shit going on, right? So, I believe the game came out in 93, but I'm pretty sure I was. Uh, I'm pretty sure I didn't start playing it until I was about maybe 6, 7. Don't know what the hell is going on or whatever. But I remember seeing this cover, my brother coming home and leaving it on the table and whatnot, and I'm like, what the fuck is this game? It says Street Fighter Double I. What is that? Like, listen, I was young. I'm pretty sure that I did not know anything about Roman numerals. At that time, I'm just start learning how to read. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I thought it was. Street Fighter Double I. And it's, if you look at the cover, there's a lot of shit going on. Like, we know the iconic characters today displayed. Like, you see Chun-Li, which is my favorite character. You see Blanca, which is, obviously, for those of you who haven't heard the name yet within, our panelists, then I don't know what to tell you guys. But now the answer has been told to you guys.
Mystery solved. I like Blanca from Street Fighter.
Exactly. The cat is out of the bag. And then you have Ryu, who is like laid out on the fucking floor. So I'm like, being the little kid that I am, is like, holy shit, like, this is supposed to be a game about street fights. So why the hell they got some green guy fucking attacking people in the alley. Like, what is this shit? What is going on?
What city is this? What's going on here?
Yeah, like, and we are very inquisitive. We like to inquire about things as kids. So, they're fighting in the alley, trash cans are being knocked over. Clearly you see the crates in the back. Blanca laid the fuck out of Ryu, and he's about to attack, Chung Li. And it's like, I'm assuming that, well, if it's called Street Fighter, then Blanca must be the boss. Because there's two humans on the cover, and this guy has some like special powers. He looks like he's, of course we know now because we know Blanca's move sets or whatnot. But he looks like he's about to like bum rush the shit out of Chung Li, or he already plummeted through Ryu and he's about to just hit his next target, which is Chun. And I remember looking at this, and it's like, holy shit, this game is crazy. I'm eager to play it. And I feel like they got the overall piece right in terms of like, okay, the three characters can be played, but I don't think that they and of course they got like the move set, because although Chung Li looked kind of scared, she looks like she's about to go into lightning legs, which is a very bad move in this case for those of you who of course play competitively, FGC community or whatever. And you can see Blanca's role. But I feel like the cover also did not articulate the game in a sense too, because it looks like a beat 'em up. And
Yeah, I can see where you would see beat 'em up. Yeah.
I see beat 'em up because around this time when Street Fighter 2 came out, there was no double battles. Like, that was introduced in like alpha. So it wasn't no like 2-on-1, or I think they were called Destiny battles in Alpha 3 or something like that. There was never a 2-on-1 fight in Street Fighter. It was always 1-on-1. So I didn't look at it as a versus game. I didn't, see it as that. I saw it as like a beat 'em up. Like, it's a 2-player game. You can only play as 2 characters, Chung Li and Ryu, a boy and a girl, man and woman. And the antagonist is Blanca. Like, that's the final boss. He met them in the alley, beat their ass, and now they want revenge or something like that. Because I didn't know that it was a Street Fighter 1. Around this time when Street Fighter 2 came out, that's where it got most of its familiarity. That's when, it got most of its fame. It wasn't until this game came out where Street Fighter 1, I was like, oh, okay, there's a 1, so this is a 2 or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of what I grasped from the overall composition of this. It's well done in a sense of the characters are very well represented in terms of their aesthetic. In terms of the environment, if you play the game and to be honest, thinking about it now, I don't think there was any environment like this in any of the games, in any of the stages that you played in this game. Like, I don't recall, as far as I recollect.
Nah. The only street stage was like Chung Li stage in China.
Yeah, and there weren't no bricks. They were like fucking straw houses and like
the back area. This looks like a urban, like New York or something like that. Like, it looks more like a Fatal Fury stage than it does a Street Fighter stage.
Yeah, and it's like they kind of missed the mark on that, because there was no stage within Street Fighter 2 that.
So I gotta ask you, with all the criticisms, why'd you pick it as one of your favorites?
I picked it as my favorite because of like it being thought provoking, and I think overall it's a well drawn piece. It just misrepresented a lot of points, and it kind of like delivers on the notion that Gunnar mentioned earlier, that some games kind of their cover art misrepresent what the game actually is, and I kind of like that about Street Fighter, because it did that. I'm expecting it. It's me being a kid, so if I was an adult, I'd probably be upset about it. because I feel like I've gotten bamboozled. But not only Blanca was not the final boss. There were 3 bosses that you, 4 that you couldn't play with at the time, which were relatively strong. So it's like, okay, there's that. Then, aside from Ryu and Chun Li being 2 characters that you could play, there were 6 other characters, including Blanca. So I found that to be also cool. Like, okay, they're attacking each other, so and you get to play with Blanca, who's doing this shit too. Even though I never really played as him, but to have him as a selection was pretty interesting. Um, and yeah, it I don't know I don't know what else to really say. I had another point, but I forgot about it. But yeah, I think what made the piece strong is the fact that it was ambiguous, and there was a lot going on within it where it kind of threw whoever purchased it off. If they didn't look at the back, of course, because if I'm not mistaken, the back did show, um, again, which was the staple for these games. It showed like 4 still frames of 4 photos of gameplay, but it still didn't really tell you much about it. Um, but yeah, that was my my third piece. I do enjoy it. Um, it kind of missed the mark, but it was still a well drawn out piece, and it did ended up being a fun game to play.
I mean, look, we're as of the recording of this video, Street Fighter 6 is on the horizon. So,
Yeah,
despite personal issues anybody might have with the game, I mean, it's still trucking the 6th entry. So it's there. It
Still
has its
kicking.
fan base. Yeah, people
Still
like it.
kicking. And Street Fighter 2 is one of the best-selling Capcom games in their history.
Oh,
So
yeah. There's
yeah,
a
there's
meme
that.
about how many Street Fighter 2s, how many
Oh, yeah.
versions of the game there are out there.
yeah. What is it? Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is different from Super Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2. Like, it was so
There
many
you go.
different iterations. Like, the new challengers, the list goes on and on and on. And they definitely milked it, to say the least. But my experiences with each and every one of them were fun. But yeah. Street Fighter 2, my third piece.
Cool. I think I'm next, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right. So my third one is going to be specifically the North American release or the North American cover of the deluxe edition of Demon Souls on the PS3. So I didn't know this cover existed when the game came out. I only discovered it a few years after. I think this came out in 2009, something like that. And I saw this cover in a game shop a few years after. I was like, whoa, I never seen this version of the game. And I love this cover. So I think well, I'm pretty sure it's not. So it's the player, or like the knight here on the cover, is laying down, and he has his shield and has a bunch of arrows stuck in the shield, and he looks like he's dying or he's dead, one or the other.
That definitely depicts Demon Souls in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Kind of does.
So I thought it was Ostrava of Boletaria, but it's not him, because he had a very specific shield and a specific sword. So this is your character. This has to be your character with the flute armor. The flute, I think it's called the flute armor. With the weird like duck helmet. And he's just sitting there, and he's experiencing his death. And then on the cover of the main, like the regular release of the game, has the soul form of the same knight. So
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
I just love that like little story that they have kind of with the cover arts. And I love just the composition of this. Like, it just clearly he just went into battle, and it didn't go too well for this guy.
So well.
Yeah, and this is also something that Kong would have drawn in college. So
yeah, not as good, obviously, but close enough. Because I love the European fantasy and knights and warriors and demons and all that stuff. So of course this game makes me rock hard every time I play it. I love this game very much, and I love this cover art. It's simple, it's to the point, but it tells you enough of the story, and it tells you enough to be intrigued by it. At least someone like me to be intrigued by it. And just on the based off the background, this looks like, I can't tell, hard to say, but this looks like this is maybe the third
First
area.
Oh, the third. Okay.
I'm thinking the third area. Where you fight the old king. Whether you fight the giant mantis monster. This looks like that wall in the back kind of looks like one of the ruins. I could be wrong, but I don't know. It could be the first area because of the arrows. You fight a lot of archers there, so it could be the first area. I could just be reading too much into the etching on the wall there. But yeah, I think this cover art is fucking badass as hell. It's simple and it's to the point. So that's my entry number 3. Demon Souls Deluxe Edition, North American version for PS3.
That's if you ever wanted a synopsis, if anybody ever asked you what's the Souls games like in just give me an image, just show them this. And it's just
Pretty
like,
much.
yeah, this is Souls. Which funny you mentioned this one. I had to like wait, it looked really familiar, and I had to like think about it. I'm like, wait, I own this. So
yeah, you have that version of the game. Yes.
Yeah, and just for fun fact, for anybody listening, watching, it actually came with a full strategy guide, like a full strategy guide included. I'm talking about, it shows the keys, where to find them, armor, their upgrades, weapons, their upgrades, characters, bosses, locations, like a full strategy guide with the
Nice.
game. Like, fucking gaming was. Yeah, I don't know gaming, youngins. I don't know gaming. But yeah,
And
fucking.
and back then, well, I kind of came late into the Demon Souls or Soulsborne series. You guys, well, particularly Gunner, acquired the strategy guide. I guess you never thought that you would need it until you actually played it, right? Like how?
No, I don't even remember how this came into my possession, because nobody knew what Demon Souls was, really. I think me and Zeta, for those who know him from the podcast, we fucked around with the Japanese version, because PlayStation 3 was kind of one of the first consoles that was backwards compatible, so we could play Japanese games on it, and that's how we told Kong about them. Like, yo, this is wild ass game where you play as like a knight and there's like demons and shit, and you die instantly. And we swore it was never coming to the US, because this was when some games would never leave Japan. And then when eventually this one came out as an English one, came out in the West, we were like, oh shit, this is the game. This is the game we were talking about. And Julio was like, Kong was like, I'll check it out. Why not? And then, boom, like, it's game over. GG, it's a wrap. Go home from there. But yeah, Demon Souls. This is it. This is how you'll be 90% of the time.
Yep, on your ass with arrows stuck in them.
Wondering how you got here.
Right,
okay,
so let's do one more round. Last round. Let's hear it.
All right, so my last entry to round out this episode. Again, it's a PlayStation 2 game. If obviously the covers will be shown. A lot of my stuff is from PlayStation 2. That was kind of my fondest system. So this one, again, a fan favorite of mine, and this one kind of ties into Esoteric's point about looking at a cover from just the store display, knowing nothing about the game, not having no, third-party information, no before YouTube and fucking Game Informer and their ilk. So when I bought this game when I was young, I went off the cover art, and when I describe it to you guys, you're gonna be like, how? But that's just how I am. So my last entry for this episode is Dot Hack Infection for the PlayStation 2. Now, I'll just for the audience, I'll describe the cover art. It's an all white, no color. It shows a ghost-looking girl called Alma. She's a key central figure in the game, and in kind of like, I guess, pencil sketching. I'm no artist, so kind of pencil sketching. It shows a bunch of characters right under her, and from left to right, it shows a woman with a big hat, a cat girl, some emo looking angel dude, some cool kid with dual knives, so a scantily clad battle brawl wearing woman, a, let's just say a PC terms, a meek little boy, and then some fucking Highlander-esque face paint dude. What I didn't know at the time is that the main character, the central figure, was the main character you played as, Kite. And the characters to his left and right were characters within the game that you recruited. And some of these characters, like Hilda on the far left, you didn't even get, she wasn't a playable character to the fourth game. Yeah, there are 4 of these games, but I didn't know that. I just saw cool looking fantasy characters and I was like, the heck is this? But honestly, if I'm going to be real, what really got me was on the the middle of it was the fact that they advertised that you get a 45-minute anime DVD. And again, I'm a fucking weeb. So I was like, "Oh my god, you get a game and an anime to watch with this thing?" So I did good in school. I had a good report card. So my mother was like, "All right, we're at the oh god, I don't even know, Toys R Us, I think. We're gonna buy you a game. You get one game. It has to be this price and under. Choose wisely." And for some reason, this bland ass cover just was like, when I saw it, I'm like, I have to own this game because it's the only game I get to choose. Not only do I get a game, but I get a fucking anime to watch with it. So luckily, Dot Hack is an amazing game, and it's this whole world. It spawned an anime series, mangas, light novels. There's a sequel trio of games that came out for the PlayStation 2. I mean, Dot Hack's an amazing series, but this is a prime example of a cover art selling itself to young me based on what is presented to me. Just this. So for my last entry, simple but clean, Dot Hack Infection for the PlayStation 2.
Hey, I like what you did there. Simple and
Yeah,
clean.
see, there you go. I'm down. I played that game.
There's a win for the marketing team there with that 44-minute little sign on the.
I mean,
the cover.
for young 2003 me, yeah, it was like, I get a 2-for-1. Shit, sign me up. I only got one game. This is it.
Yeah. I know a lot about the twofers, but in this case, I did not enjoy the game at all. The cover art definitely it brought it to my attention. I completely just went with like closed eyes. I didn't know anything about the game, but I was completely disappointed with the gameplay. But I would say the cover art is really good. And yeah, I would say my last selection. I don't know if Kong or Gunna is familiar with it, but my last selection is called Enchanted Arms.
That game sounds very familiar.
Oh, it was. If you guys have seen the cover, if you like know the game or whatever, some people may disagree with me. You can dislike it. You can curse me out in the comment section or whatever. That's fine by me. But I hated this game very, very much. It kind of, if I had to.
Oh shit! Okay, this game. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When I tell you that the artwork definitely, like, the artwork misrepresented the characters and the gameplay. Like when I looked at the cover art for this, I'm like, oh, this is about to be anime as fuck. look at the badass character with the fire. He's probably like either a boss or the main character. You got the emo knight in the green or whatever. Then you got the two eye candies at the bottom. Oh, this game is about to be crazy. It's gonna be a phenomenal RPG or whatever. And the one that I got came with a comic book. I still have the game, I still have the comic because I mean, who's gonna buy it? Who's gonna purchase it from me? I'm pretty sure if I went to GameStop, I'll probably get like $1 for it at best, and that's them being generous. But yeah, like it it was amazing piece, and this was during the time where, if I'm not mistaken, Ubisoft was making decent games. So you had games like Rayman, which was phenomenal. Like I remember the cover art of that game for the PlayStation, and that piece of work did not do the game justice. Like don't get me wrong, the artwork looked great, but just the game in itself, like the art style of the game alone and the gameplay was just amazing. And I'm not talking about this current Rayman generation that we have, which looks great as well. I'm talking about like PlayStation 1 Rayman. But I'm kind of like going off on a tangent. This piece of shit was was really disappointment.
Didn't the main character play a saxophone, or am I confusing that with another game?
Dude, I don't even remember. What I do remember about the game and how it was played was that it played similar to like, I can't even say that. Like it had like a somewhat Battle Network format in terms of like, so okay, damn, it's so hard to explain. It's a tactical RPG, right? And essentially you had two sides. You had the enemy side, which consists of like maybe 6 to 8 grids, and then you had your side, which was also 6 to 8 grids, and you couldn't impede on anyone's pathway, because like you were separated from the enemy. So the only thing that you could do was like use certain moves that'll be able to get to that enemy. So let's say, for example, you have a 8 space grid. The enemies can move back, and you would have to use a move that took up like 2 spaces or whatever to reach that enemy. It's really hard to explain, but that's how garbage it was to me. Did not like it. The cutscenes were decent. But
All right, so I'm gonna hit you with some wild stuff. Do you know who developed that game?
who developed it?
From Software.
Really?
Yeah, it was developed by From Software, and in the West was published by Ubisoft.
I did not know that. I didn't know it was From Software. I thought it was Ubisoft, so I stand corrected. Thank you so much for that information, because I really was shitting on Ubisoft.
You're no longer a Dark Souls fan. Your card has been revoked.
If that's the case, then you're no longer a Souls fan either, because you never played this game.
I did play this game and I loved it.
You can't even say that with a straight face.
You don't know that.
I mean, well,
I don't.
The name escapes me, but there is a really bad ninja game that really tried to harp off the hype of Ninja Gaiden. That was made
Ninja
by
Blade. Oh god,
yeah, that's From Software too. So they weren't always banging out hitting out bangers out there. They have their slumps, we'll call them.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, because I've played both games. Ninja Blade, in comparison to Ninja Gaiden, there is no comparison. However, Ninja Blade was a good game from start to finish in terms of me being able to sit through it and actually play it from start to finish. Enchanted Arms did not give me that. Like it was it didn't give me enough to play it from start to finish to fully critique the game. It was so bad that I had to stop in the midst of it and just drop it entirely.
Yeah, I heard. I think I borrowed a friend's copy, so I never beat the game. But you're not the only one. This is kind of universally known as pretty junk. And I think this game came out roughly around the beginning of the PlayStation 3's like life. So it was like blatantly obvious because the library was so small. So a bad game like that stood out exponentially.
Well, the one I played was on a 360.
It came out on both, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know that the PS3 had one, had a its own game or whatever. But
So the cover art.
Huh?
So the cover art. That's
Yeah, I know. I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah, the cover art was great. It but it couldn't make the game any better. And there wasn't much telling to the game cover art aside from the characters. That's about it. Like the cover art, despise the game. Definitely was one of those moments where I was catfished.
It happens.
Cover art.
Yeah,
but that just goes to say that the artist did a great job, but it couldn't help out. It couldn't help out the experience of the game. Is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that was my third one.
All right. So my last one is gonna be specific. Well, okay. I'll mention the American version and then the one I actually like, which is the Japanese version. So Mega Man Legends 2. The Mega Man Legends games have very plain cover art. It's just Mega Man dead in the front, like mad, like in your face. And I remember buying or seeing the game for the first time in a game shop, and the first one, and I saw Mega Man in 3D without a helmet. I'm like, oh, what is this? And I bought it, of course. Like I was like, I need to play this game because the only Mega Man I knew was Mega Man X and regular Mega Man.
Yeah,
and those games were not in 3D at all. And so while those cover arts, they influenced me growing up, the Japanese cover arts are way better. And I'm looking at Mega Man Legends 2 cover art, or Rockman Dash 2 cover art for this game, and it's so, I mean, it's so good. It's Mega Man on his ship on the front, holding onto the railing of his ship, holding roll with his other arm, and he's got Data, his little monkey, Sherpa companion at the bottom. They're looking all determined in the front, and like the wind is blowing in his face and his hair is like flowing back, and they're on their ship at full speed. And then on the side is the mayor chick or whatever, I don't remember her, but she's there. She's like skateboarding on an airship, and there's Tron holding on to her crying, and then there's a bunch of airships in the sky, and like the color palette is like the sun setting, so it's like a lot of deep oranges and whites and blues, and that's like, yo, this cover art is
way better.
This is way better.
It definitely gives a more like ominous vibe, like the sun setting, their face expressions look scared as shit. There's like their ass clenching and stuff like that.
And
the only one that looks like
determined is Mega
regular
Man.
is Data. Data looks like
Data.
so
Mega
like,
Man looked
whatever.
ready, like you know what I mean. And this is a hero's journey. This guy is going into battle right now, and all the ships in the background, and all the vertical, like all the clouds are like in this like straight line, and they're parallel to like the ship and the character. So it just kind of creates this like swooping motion toward the right. And I think this composition fucking rules. And we didn't get it in North America, so it's unfortunate, but this is a fantastic cover, beautiful art piece. I definitely, I might get this printed and framed at some point, because I think this is a fantastic
You could
cover.
put it as a wallpaper if you like too on your computer. Like,
oh, can you?
I think that's definitely wallpaper worthy, if you ask me.
I was joking. I know. I'm aware.
No, I know you was joking. I'm just saying, like, it's definitely
it's definitely wallpaper worthy for sure. So yeah, that is my final entry, and I'll just mention a few honorable mentions. I'll be remiss not to mention them. So Resident Evil Outbreak 1 North American cover I think is awesome.
Ooh.
As the gun shooting into the sky with like the zombie reflection, and then in the background is Raccoon City burning down. Fantastic cover art. And then I want to mention all of the PS2 era Grand Theft Auto cover arts I think are awesome. Specifically, I love the third one because it's like very comic booky and like, you know, the thick lines around the characters. Like I think that just rules. But San Andreas, Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto 3, as well as the Liberty City stories and Vice City stories, I think the cover art for all the Grand Theft Auto games are like really cool, and I love the composition. So those are just my honorable mentions. And yeah, if you guys have honorable mentions, now's the time. And then Esoteric can take us home.
All right, I'll let you go, Gunner.
Okay, so my honorable mentions are Valkyrie Profile 2. Valkyrie Profile, my favorite, one of my like really memorable video games. It's straight, simple, to the point. It takes place a snapshot of combat with the main character front and center, and her Anheriar, or her soldiers, fighting alongside her. It simple, to the point. I like it. And last one I'll quickly talk about is Odin Sphere, PlayStation 2, the one I'm specifically talking about. Again, it's very a Vanillaware art style. Love their art style. It's, again, nice and simple. Shows the characters you play as. Shows the main little girl who's reading about these characters in a storybook kind of a setting. So, again, great color palette. Title right up in front. Characters look cool as hell to me. So yeah, my honorable mentions: Valkyrie Profile 2, excuse me, and Odin Sphere, PlayStation 2.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for that, Gunner, because that was exactly the game I was mentioning in relation to, like, remember what I was speaking on earlier with the art style of Odin Sphere. I couldn't remember the name of the game.
Oh, Odin Sphere. Oh, okay.
That's what I was referring to. But yeah, a couple of honorable mentions. One, I like Earthworm Jim. I would say that's pretty cool. The Lion King was also another good one. There's quite a few others. Fighters Megamix was also a great one. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. There's many others, but you know, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna mention those. Those were some pretty good honorable mentions, in my opinion.
Yeah, solid covers all around.
Yep. So there you have it, folks. This is our podcast on video game covers. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you disliked, also leave a dislike. You know. Also, let us know what your favorite video game art covers were or are currently, and why. We would love to hear from you guys. Again, just to let you guys know, we do a podcast every week, and it's aired Thursday at 12 p.m. EST. And we also stream. You can find me on Logical Gamers TV, which is the channel I stream on Twitch. And also you can follow Blankakong as well on Twitch. And also a few socials to mention. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and a Discord. So again, we're always looking for engagement on and off stream as well. And we'd love to hear, you know, more from you guys. So yeah, guys, this pretty much concludes our podcast. And we are signing off. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Take care. And remember, if it ain't gaming, it ain't logical, guys. Peace.
Till next time.